Hey there. This week on the Growth Whisperers, we had a problem with our video. Our apologies on this. So on the YouTube version, you're only going to see Kevin and you're going to not see me. But trust me, my audio is there. You can follow along. It's just that you get to enjoy Kevin's face a little bit more than usual. Some of us, that might be a benefit. Hope you enjoy this week's episode on YouTube.
Welcome to the Growth Whisperers podcast, where everything we talk about is about building enduring great companies that last for decades, companies that you can look at and be proud of for hopefully generations to come, or at least generations of future leaders to come. I'm Kevin Lawrence. I'm here as always with Brad Giles, my co-host on the show. Brad, how you doing today?
I'm great. Very good at this end. Beautiful summer. Everything is good.
And we've got a beautiful winter at our end too. So we've got a great, interesting topic today, the missing meeting that most people forget about, and it's a massive opportunity. We'll dig into that in a second. But before we do that quickly, what's your word of the day, Brad?
Well, it's a phrase, not a word, so I've broken the rules immediately. This is something that's on my mind is when you're going to engage with a person about a business subject, are they entertaining you or are they teaching you? I feel that there are some people who are entertainers and there are others who are teachers and there are others who are actually working on things and providing tools. So yeah, I don't know how I could spend an hour explaining that, but that's as good as I can do today, Kevin.
Teachers or entertainers? Interesting. Well, mine is actually like following the passion. You know, I was talking to someone the other day, and it was a teenager trying to figure out what to do in their career, and people are giving them all kinds of different advice. And mine was just like, follow what you're passionate about, follow what it is that you like doing, and you're willing to work hard at because it feeds you or fuels you in some way.
Yeah,
and it'll work itself out. Yeah. But really, what are you passionate about and willing to put the energy into? So we could weave those together. You know, are you passionate about teaching? Are you passionate about entertaining? Or are you passionate about something completely different? But yeah, following what you're passionate about, which generally means it gives you energy.
Very good. Very good.
Well, let's jump right in, Brad. Why don't you walk us into why don't you walk us into the episode here today? And this is over the last several, probably 5 episodes or so, we've been talking about the meeting rhythm. That is the annual 2-day strategy meeting, the quarterly execution planning meeting, the monthly leadership team meeting, the weekly meeting, the daily huddle. And this is what we know. This is the forum in which we operate. But there's something that's missing throughout this. There's something that once you're doing it, once you start to apply this, it begins to kind of fill a gap that's not there for the organization. And so that's what we're talking about today, which is the CEO update. That forms a critical part of the meeting rhythm to help everybody in the organization align, because the daily huddle does a great job of aligning, but this helps it even more. It helps everybody in the organization to understand what the priorities are and also to build the pride in the organization. And it helps the CEO in their ambassadorial role. Yeah, it was interesting as we were preparing for and talking about this, Brad. I was remembered back in the 90s when I started my career. My gosh, that's forever ago. Started my career in advertising. There was a gentleman by the name of Peter Legge, and I believe he's still around. Wonderful man. He started a company called Canada Wide Magazines. They were big into the print magazine space. Got a great magazine called BC Business based out of Vancouver. And anyways, we were connected to that organization through some charitable work I was doing, which Peter was big into charity. He emceed tons of events in Vancouver. Awesome guy. But he had a daily update. And I'm sure it was daily. Now, it might have been weekly, if I quote wrong, but I think it was a thought of the day that he would send out to his people back then. And I think back in the 90s, it might have been printed.
Yeah.
Because now they're in the magazine content space.
and I saw some of these updates and they were amazing. It was a quote of the day with some thoughts and everything. And it was partially what inspired me when I started a daily newsletter that I used to have back then, back in the later 90s when I started my practice. And the point of it is he was getting these people in sync and up to date continually with what's going on. And it was a really powerful mechanism he used as a form of his leadership. And that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a form of leadership. It's a form of reminding people, but what's on the leader's mind? See, the quarterly, the annual, the monthly, the weekly, that's the leadership team. And that's important. And maybe you're even doing that in a form in the department that you work in. Certainly daily huddles are there, but this is a simple 5-minute update from the leader. Now, I'd advocate once per week, and I know that you would say that perhaps once per month is appropriate, but what we're going to say is weekly or fortnightly or monthly. You've got to figure out, if this is an example of best practice, how do you get this practice to work best in your organization? To tailor it to suit yourself. But the point is that there is a regular rhythmic update from the leader that explains some of the simple mechanisms that are occurring in their sphere, some of the updates, some of the priorities that are happening.
Yeah, in many ways, it's being able to hear directly from the leader, and to hear their thoughts, because there's this thing called the telephone game where, a CEO has a discussion with executives. Executives talk to directors. Directors talk to managers. Managers talk to assistant managers. Assistant managers talk to team leads. Team leads talk to team members. And the stories don't make it all the way there to begin with. They don't flow all the way always. And they also get changed, as they should, as the managers put their own stamp onto this. This is a direct communication. And in the world of, massive, easy communication, it's no brainer. And we have one of our clients right now that does a monthly version, and he has a great monthly version he does by video. And one of the things he does, he's got his head of marketing and communications, who's an awesome guy, who the CEO and him sit and talk for a couple minutes about the messages. The CEO makes his notes. The head of the marketing group turns on the camera with just using their phone, because the iPhone is an incredible media device.
Yeah,
records it, and then the marketing person hands it off to someone on the team. They do some quick edits, and then away they go. Post it up, and away they go. And there's the CEO's monthly message. It's really powerful. I mean, you could make an argument for a daily potentially at some point. That might be a bit much, but it's just regularly doing it, because it's almost like there's no reason not to. People just forget to and don't have a mechanism to get it done.
Yeah, it can be really easy. And as a byproduct, one of the things that I've noticed, the leaders that I work with who do it, I've noticed it kind of consolidates all of their thoughts. And it's a great way to round out a week by providing an update. Now, this should be really, I'd advocate for, it should take 5 minutes to write. So this is a short, sharp, simple email. Most of the time when I've been coaching leaders who are doing this, my regular thing is make it shorter, make it shorter, make it shorter. We always want to put too much, especially at the beginning, put too much in, but set the rhythm that is, it's a handful of dot points, a couple of quick updates, what's on my mind, maybe a metric or two, maybe a shout out, some of those kind of things. It should take really 5 minutes, but no more than 10 to write. And it should take no more than 5 minutes to read, because then it's digestible. And, if you're an employee who's disconnected from the leadership team, let's say, so you're 1 or 2 or 3 levels away, and you get an email from the leader about, let's say, the state of the nation or what's happening, that's a pretty interesting, if it's quick, a pretty interesting email if it's relevant.
Yeah, and relevant, it's got to be relevant to all people in the company, which can be challenging. So yeah, my recommendation for stuff like this example, the head of marketing comes in and records it for the CEO. the CEO prepares for less than a minute, and they've been thinking about it during the week sometimes if they have had time, and it takes a couple minutes to record. And if you're going to write it, some CEOs are excellent at writing.
Yeah.
They can sit down and do that stuff, and most are so damn busy. So that's like, get their EA or get somebody else, make it. The idea is to make it somebody else's job to get it out. You just happen to be the person providing the content, and you can be on your way to your kid's soccer game, and your key person can contact you to get the key points if it's in a written form, that is, and to pull the content from it. But the key is make it somebody else's accountability that it happens. It shouldn't be yours.
Yeah, but it's your thoughts. It's
correct.
It's what's happening. You know, what are you feeling, sensing? What does your spidey sense tell you is another way to think about it.
It is. And one of the traps to avoid is, the trap of the company newsletters trying to pull content from everybody.
No.
Trying to get the stories and they start off strong and then they often fall on their face. And the reality is, in this, you shouldn't depend on anyone. If your executives happen to share stuff with you, great. If you want to do shout outs to people and talk about good stuff happening, it's wonderful, but you need to be able to have access to it and not be getting stuck on it because people aren't telling you what you need to know.
Yeah.
By the way, it's kind of an interesting insight, is if you're out of touch and don't know some of that stuff, that might indicate that maybe you're not connected enough to the business. But the point of it is, make it simple and something that can be effective without a whole bunch of other things to get in its way.
Yeah. I've got a client that I work with, and they are big into to net promoter and big into to measuring employee satisfaction. And so when we started it with them, they'd done 1 or 2 or 3 runs that the leader had, and then they surveyed their staff, and it was overwhelmingly decided that this was something that was really valued by people, because they got a bit of an exciting update as to what's going on, and it was short and sharp and sweet, and that's what really matters.
Yeah, and right to the point. So we talk about some things that I think, as you mentioned, it can align people to the objectives. You can be updating on objectives. You can do things in there to reinforce the culture. You can cover off things that will maybe even help people to perform or be on top of really critical things. And as we talked about when we were preparing, is that the agenda can start off a lot like a daily meeting. Hey, what's up? Hey, here's the metrics, the first 2 points of the daily meeting to share. But the idea here is, it's not just to your direct team, it's cascading to everyone. But then you might have some important messages or themes. Some companies run regular themes where there's a major focus that everyone's aligned around. You might provide some updates on that. Here's some things that have happened. Here's some highlights. Here's the division that's doing the best, or some shout outs to new ideas around that theme. But as an output, ideally, people come away with something to feel proud about. Proud to be on this team and what's happening in this team. And then also something to look forward to, right? That's part of leadership, is leading their thoughts and having them think about where they're going to go or how it's going to be.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Brad.
At a personal level, there's this simple philosophy I heard about 20 years ago, and that was, everybody needs something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to. And it's really playing on that mechanism in the way that you've just said. So, we want to activate the pride, which is something to love. Activate the pride about our team, our product, our company, our leaders, whatever it might be. We want to try to use that mechanism, something to do. We want to make sure that people are aware that we're progressing and that there's still work to be done, and then something to look forward to, so that we're able to, it could be an expansion, it could be
an acquisition, it could be a company picnic, it could be, a whole range of different things that are coming up.
It could be next week's update.
It could be next week's update. But we're really, we're thinking about it through that lens. Is that what's on your mind? How are we progressing on our company priorities? Those types of things. Any key metrics, and we don't want to see revenue metrics every single week. We don't want to see. Imagine 15 weeks in a row where the only metric was, yes, we achieved budget this week. Like, make it a bit varied. Make some interesting things.
You could break it up in 1 week reporting on something that has to do with culture, something else that has to do with efficiency, something else that has to do with one of the company goals. Who knows? You can find ways to make it in. And if you're going to break it up and do different metrics at different times, again, whoever you make accountable for it, have them to have a calendar. So, okay, today we're reporting on this metric, and have them come with the data so you can, speak to it quickly. Point of it is you want to be reinforcing the things that matter most.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
And what's on your mind? Like, it's really simple. It's a way to be authentic, vulnerable, to build trust, if you like.
Yeah, this, some CEOs and different CEOs, and by the way, this could apply to team leaders as well that have big teams. But some CEOs are very open about what's going on in their world personally, and then some aren't. So that's a personal thing of what you're willing to share and what you're not. Some are very, almost more secretive and not open about it. But whatever your style is, share what's comfortable. And then what's going to align the team and help people to be able to be on board with the stuff that matters most. Again, feel proud and have something to look forward to.
Even if you're really secretive, your update could be, I was really happy that we achieved our number 2 company priority this week.
Yes.
And congratulations to Sean for his hard work in that area. So if everyone got that, first of all, Sean's going to be pretty proud, but Sean's team will be. There'll be a whole range of things that come of that. So it doesn't need to be, like you said, adapt it to suit your personality style. That's what matters.
In simplest terms, it could be what's up, a little bit of company news, a couple of key metrics that relate to your most important company goals. You could review progress on the company goals and celebrate a few things that have actually happened, and then tell people about a couple things that are happening next week. You could be doing it every time you do it, and you could talk a little bit about one of the company values for a minute and reinforce one of the values in a story about it. Like, it's things to just keep grounding people in what matters most. Our culture, you might have a big safety focus in your organization, and maybe it's something around safety, our goals, and where we're winning, or anything else that they need to know. Again, it's basic, but it's the discipline of a CEO to do it on a regular basis, or again, team leaders leading big teams. Just a very simple thing. And it's almost like it's the missing meeting rhythm that many people forget about, and the ability to impact the entire organization and have them think about the same thing.
Yeah, people know what's going on. It's an amazing alignment tool. Okay.
Yep.
So just as a quick summary then, why does it matter? It helps to align the team to the company objectives, the performance, and also the culture. It's this kind of, in the same way that the daily huddle is a bit of a drumbeat, this is a secondary drumbeat, but from the leader, and it helps. The structure, it should be like the daily. Again, what's up? Any metrics, important messages, something about the culture. Don't make it too long. We want to have no more than 5, maybe 10 minutes to write it and prepare for it. And it should take no more than 5 minutes to read it or watch it if you're using videos. And finally, it can be a bit about thinking about the last week, so some updates, and a little bit about thinking about next week as well, or next month, depending on what you're doing. And finally, one last point, make it an interesting title. So you want it to stand out a little bit. or use the same title of the email subject, assuming you're using email each week. And that doesn't mean that you need to change the email title every week. It more means you just want to have something that when people see it, if they're getting 100 emails a day, that it's going to stand out. All right, Kevin, do you want to move?
Awesome. Yeah, well, that's the idea of the show. So we challenge is if you were to do it weekly, great, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever it is, what's the rhythm that you're going to communicate to every person in the org, and make your basic agenda like we talked about and get it started. Find someone on your team to support you and get it done. Another great tool, and it'll be well worth the time. So thanks for listening. This has been the Growth Whisperers podcast. I'm Kevin Lawrence, as always, with Brad Giles. For the YouTube version, go to The Growth Whisperers on youtube.com. To reach us, to subscribe to our newsletters or reach out to us, Brad is evolutionpartners.com.au, and Kevin is lawrenceandco.com. Hope you have an awesome week. And just remember, the little bits of communication and little seeds you plant in people's mind can grow into massive, massive old oak trees. And that's a wonderful thing. Have a great week.